Welcome to Haunt Topic Radio, the podcast for haunters by haunters. These are our scary visions.
Welcome back, Haunter, to another episode of Haunt Topic Radio. Man, it is hot today. End of August, rolling into September. Hope you guys are staying safe out there, getting your haunts done, hopefully wrapping things up for the haunt season. I don't know if you're a home haunter, you're probably just getting started. So, anyway, be safe. In this episode, we get Tessa Shaw on from my old stomping ground, the Dead Factory. She's an excellent special effects artist. We're going to go over quick things you can do in your haunt. Doesn't take a lot of time. Blood, gore, cuts, gashes, stuff like that. The podcast is a good listen. However, I'm going to let you in a little secret. I'm going to give you a link to a video. It'll take you right to the video. HauntersToolbox.com/SFX, like special effects. So that's HauntersToolbox.com/SFX. That will take you to this video as well. This was for one of our master classes. Tessa came in, showed her stuff and how she applies latex and paint and blood and scar wax and all kinds of stuff and tools and materials. Things you can use this season to get your actors ready, or for you're an actor, stuff you can do on yourself. Stuff that'll take just a little bit of time, but big impact. Scare badge orders are going out, so if you guys are interested in scare badges for your actors, usually once you got your team in place and you know approximately how many team members you're going to be, is a good time to order. All orders shipped within 5 to 7 days at your mailbox. Let's roll into it. Our masterclass with Tessa Shaw from the Dead Factory Haunted House. So tonight we're going to be covering simple techniques, blood, gore, trauma, stuff like that. Tessa works at the Dead Factory. She's been out there for how many years?
It's my 10th.
10th year. When I had Dead Factory, I asked Tessa if she wanted to come on, and she never left. So she fell in love with it. So I'm going to be sitting here under this camera. She's going to be working on me. Once again, I cannot see your comments on Facebook, but if you come over to Zoom, I can see your comments and I'll be able to answer your question. I'm going to be guiding her through a few things, asking a few questions along the way. If you guys have any questions, just type them in the chat box on Zoom where I can see them. She has some pretty cool techniques. You don't need a lot of money to do it. It's, very effective things. So yeah, we'll leave it at that. So ask your questions in the chat box and I'll get to them.
Perfect.
Would you shut the door for me?
Yes.
When you're up?
We'll start with
Yeah, we're gonna show us a few of your things that you like to use and some of your supplies.
So there are things that are kind of essential, but are also very inexpensive and will last forever. One of them, can you see that? Liquid latex. There is no rhyme or reason to this. Any from Walmart, Spirit Halloween, Amazon, does not matter. It is all the same thing. It all obviously is still latex, so making sure somebody's not allergic is imperative, but otherwise they're the same.
Yeah, they do have stuff like, I think zombie skin may be one of those out there that it's not latex, but it's kind of like forms like latex. So
Same concept, yeah.
Okay.
Another thing, spirit gum. This is, can we see? This is another thing that is pretty imperative to have, but it's also super cheap. I don't think this is more than $10, and this little tiny thing will last multiple seasons. It's just adhesive, so it's gonna stick things to the skin. A more advanced version would be like Prozaid is another adhesive you can do. I don't mess with Prozaid because this works just as well for me and what I do. So, other things that may not seem like you have to have them, but you do, are going to be simple things like Vaseline. I mean, that's something that if we're using latex, we're also using Vaseline, which I'll explain as well. Other things that I don't really feel like you need any special brands or any special versions of is things like liquid blood. Of course, you're going to find some from different places. It's going to be more watery, some that's thicker, but it's really just kind of up to your taste, how you like them. I like the thicker ones, but I mean, to be honest, Walmart's is fine.
They tend to last a little longer, don't they?
They do last a lot longer, yeah. Less is more with pretty much everything in special effects, in my opinion. Some of the more advanced things in my kit are going to be like Ben Nye scab blood. Can we?
Yeah, this stuff stuff is
I'm mad at
awesome.
this. My lid is off. I'm sorry. But for instance,
That's what it looks like. Gooey, ooey, gooey.
yes, it's very thick. It's not going to run. You can manipulate it really easily. This is 6.7 ounces. And for me, even with some of the like the bigger trauma, I guess you could say, on some of the actors,
Yeah.
this is going to last at least a full season, if not more.
This stuff's pretty, I mean, it's like a thick,
It's very, very,
it's
very
like a thick paste. So,
Yes.
so just like that, it's like, yeah. I like to play too.
This is one of those things which everybody's gonna have their preference, but Ben Nye brand specifically, I don't ever want to use anything else. Ben Nye is wonderful. You can only, I believe you can only order it through other dealers. I know you can get it off places like Amazon though.
And there are other companies out there, just do your own
Mhm.
shopping.
Absolutely.
But Ben and I have been using them for years, so.
Yeah, that's just my personal preference. I've used others that are fine. I just stick with that one because I like it. This is another Ben Nye because I'm a slave to them. Nose and scar wax. This is what I learned with to make cut and those sorts of things. 3D cuts, 3D holes, anything of that nature. There are tons and tons of brands of this. I like the Ben Nye version because it tends to be a little less sticky. It's all sticky, but this is heavier. Yeah, this is something else. I'm obviously scraping the bottom, but even this really small amount that's in here is gonna last me many, many looks. So super tacky, super sticky, but it molds into the skin really well. Just takes some time to learn with, of course, but
So does the Vaseline help break that down?
yes. So Vaseline serves one of two purposes for me. I think I can speak for most makeup artists. Vaseline, I'm never working with scar wax without my hands covered in Vaseline because when we're pushing it into the skin like this, it's going to roll right off and stick to my finger I'm pushing with. Another reason, hair. Liquid latex, if you've ever used it, you know that if it gets on a brush, a shirt, you don't have that brush or shirt anymore. It's gone. It acts like wax if you put it on things like eyebrows or baby hairs, that sort of thing. You can plan on never seeing those hairs again either. And this acts as a really great barrier in between. So I will never not have Vaseline in my kit. Another thing, a little bit cheaper and also lasts forever. Bruise wheels. This one's by Mayron. Again, this is my favorite brand for this specifically, but there are tons that work almost identically to this one. These are all the basic colors in a bruise. That's the whole point. But I use these for things other than bruises, but this is how I make every single bruise on every single person.
So what colors are there in there? What is it?
So there's gonna be like this dark red. They're all warm toned.
Mhm.
This dark red, burgundy, regular bright red, yellow, green, obviously for infected quote unquote things. This looks like black, but it's actually like a dark navy blue, like a dark purpley navy blue.
I guess like a deep bruise
Yep.
look.
Yep. So it's kind of a paste, like it's kind of a, can you see that? It's kind of like a pasty,
Right.
but then it blends really, really easily. I use this for every single solitary look that I do. I can't think of a single look that I don't use a bruise wheel. I think these run between like 10, $15. And again, this will last me moons as long as I take good care of it, which I try to.
This podcast episode sponsored by Scarlet Badges.
We always were looking for ideas to get those actors to take it to the next level. I really want to do something that they can use more than just a meal, or they can use more than just a that a boy, that a girl. They love this stuff, but it's not really promoting a haunter. And then I sit down, Scarlet Badges comes out. That's when I realized this is amazing, because not only is it giving them an attaboy, but it's also promoting them all year round. And to promote somebody, to give somebody accolades all year round and have them be able to wear it on their shoulder with pride means a lot. This right here says this is who nailed it on this day in this year for the rest of their life, for the rest of their haunting life. And that's what I really love about this product, is you're able to give haunting to somebody an attaboy 365 days a year. And that's, so hats off to you guys. I think this is a great product, and I wish you the best of luck because it's awesome.
Get your Scare Badges at scarebadges.com.
Can we talk about the coffee?
Sure, yeah.
So one of my favorite things to do, and we were just talking, I have no idea where I got this. I didn't come up with this on my own, but this is just regular ground coffee, like Folgers ground coffee. This is my number one favorite way to make a burn effect, and it is so stinking easy.
It smells good.
It smells amazing. Smells much better than the latex that you use with it. But Basically, I'll show how to do that, but this is one of the main things we need for that. So yeah, other than oh wait, sorry.
Hey, your sponges.
Yes, this is another thing that I was gonna say can't live without, but can't do makeup without. This is a stipple sponge. I don't know if you can see, it's got these massive holes in it, and it's super wiry and pokey. It feels almost like what's that metal wool stuff?
Oh yeah, like the old
Steel wool.
steel wool.
Right, almost, but it's a little softer. This, when we dip it in, which I'll show you, of course, but
Yeah.
when we dip it in thick blood, like the scab blood, it makes kind of a splatter effect. Can we
Mhm.
see that okay? And that's something that you'll get more comfortable with as you do, but it looks much more natural than just flinging blood on something that you've worked really hard on. So I love these things, and these are stupid cheap. They come in packs. They're easy to clean with alcohol. So
Right. So do you use the wedge sponges a lot, or do
I
you?
do. So for bruises alone, I use mainly a small rounded brush like this guy. Can you see? Just a regular, like a flat rounded brush, and just regular makeup sponges from the drugstore. Of course, I mean they're made for blending, so that's what we use for that. So you're able to kind of, I don't know how to
Same ones.
describe what I'm doing.
Same
but-
ones you can just go buy at Walgreens.
Yep,
or
I
Walmart,
literally bought
just-
these at Walmart for a
Right.
couple bucks. So these are obviously disposable, so it's clean. I use one on one actor, throw it away, get another one.
Right.
Without double dipping.
Yeah, that's not a
obviously.
whole. I mean, you can get 1,000 of them for
Nothing.
nothing.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And another thing, all of these brushes that I use, minus that one, there's, I don't know, 10 or like 15 brushes in here. These are more than what I need to do regular looks. I usually use 3 or 4 of them, and these are maybe 10 to 15 bucks for all these on Amazon. These have lasted me probably 4 years. I think they're on their, some of them are on their way out, but they've more than paid for themselves.
Right.
For how cheap they are. So, and how much I use them and how much I need them to do this.
right.
So,
Okay. Well, if you guys have any questions, please type them in the chat. Any questions about tools, utensils, things you need? How do you use like any alcohol for anything, or?
there are alcohol-based paints. They are wonderful. I love them very much. They're going to be used for like hyper realism. So things you're really only going to see up close. I love doing that kind of stuff in my spare time, or in like sometimes in actors that are really like in your face in a well-lit area.
Right.
Otherwise, I use a lot of like water-based paint instead. This has been well loved. It is cheaper. You can put it around your eyes, which alcohol-based paint you cannot for obvious reasons. And it tends to be a lot more opaque, or it can be depending on how much you dilute it with your water. You can see it a lot easier from a distance. So like the actors that are in the dark, or in a prop, something like that, it's a lot
Right.
better for. So
Okay. What do you want to do on my head? You want to cut me
can
open?
do a cut.
Yeah.
Sure, absolutely. So, Brian has no hair, or I would be putting Vaseline on his hair. So, like, if we ever do anything like anywhere near his eyebrows, so like even if I were doing a cut around here, I would be coating his eyebrows with Vaseline. It's just not something that I like to mess with because it hurts real bad. And let's see here.
What's some tricks about getting around your eye, people's eyes? What?
As far as on other, like on actors.
Yeah.
So with that, I've noticed like a small brush is usually my way to go. This is not fun to like shove near somebody's eyeball, even though it's
Right.
sometimes necessary.
Mhm.
But water-based paint, I've gotten so much water-based paint in my eyes over the years, and I don't feel it. It's not painful at all.
Right.
You never want to put anything like latex or spirit gum near your eye. Of course, liquid latex is latex and it has ammonia in it. So it's going to burn your eyes quite a bit. So
Right.
a lot of water-based. The bruise wheels, I can speak for Mayron and probably all of them, but for sure this one, are very safe to put around your eyes. I get them all in my eyes regularly. Not a concern. That's another thing with blood. When I say like the liquid blood you use doesn't matter, if you're going to be putting it around eyes or your mouth, it needs to be eye and mouth safe. Otherwise, of course, that's very dangerous. But
Always like that, getting that tooth decay stuff. I know they sell that. I think
Yes.
Maron sells that too, where you put it.
they do, and
Okay.
Krylon sells eye color. So if you want your eyes to look like they're draining, bleeding, black,
Oh,
it's just like eye drops goes in painlessly like eye drops, but it's safe for your eyes, which like regular paint, of course, is not. So
all right.
wonderful. So I don't ever paint anything first. I always put down my like 3-dimensional sections first.
Okay.
Since we don't have to put any Vaseline, where do we want to go? Where can we see?
Sure. Yeah, right there.
That work? Cool.
Probably got a couple scars up there anyway. It's
Right.
like, I know I got 2.
Right. Step 1 is going to be spirit gum for me always. Again, if you're using Prozade or something like that. Latex does work as an adhesive as well, but I've noticed it doesn't hold things on initially as well as spirit gum. This holds it in place. Latex comes later. So, one thing about spirit gum specifically, it dries clear for 1. For 2, I don't know if any of you have ever used eyelash glue, but it works in the same way as eyelash glue where you can't stick something on it right away. You either have to wait for it to get tacky or use a sponge or something stick and you'll feel it get tacky.
Yeah.
If I were to just put the scar wax on immediately, it would not stick. So I use a lot of Vaseline on my hands. Feels awful, works great. So I've already taken some of my scar wax and rolled it into these beautiful little snake. One thing about scar wax, less is more. It's super intimidating to start with scar wax because it's very hard to kind of blend the first time you're trying. I forget where I put that. But the warmer it is, the better. So one thing I like to do is like put it either in front of a heater, in front of my car vent, in my pocket, something like that.
Yeah, sometimes at the pond it's either cold or hot.
Yep.
So
if I forget to bring the scar wax inside overnight, we have a problem the next day.
It's like a nuke it.
So for instance, like for this, all I did was roll out 2 very, very thin. In fact, I probably could have made them thinner. Little snakes of scar wax. They're stuck on there with that spirit gum, which of course it's not industrial strength. It will move if I pull it, but it holds it in place for what I need to do. The best tool for this, in my opinion, is your hands. You can use a spatula, you can use other stuff, but it just does not blend quite like your hands because your hands are warm and the heat melts and helps it blend in to his skin. So this is kind of abrasive, of course, but I always start at the edges and start pushing down, and it just kind of molds into the skin like that. Sorry, I'm bad at talking while I do this, so bear with me.
I'll talk. So you're just kind of like feathering it in, blending it in.
Exactly.
Because you're probably going to come up with maybe some makeup or something
gonna hide a lot of that if you do see.
So the blood will cover that.
Exactly. And some people also like to use, like if I were doing this like for photos or something of that nature, I would spend a lot of time really blending this in really hard and then matching it with like a foundation that matches your skin.
Right.
Or a paint color if I was painting the rest of your face. For this, because hot makeup is typically a little bit more in your face, it's not as important because you're not going to see it for the blood splatter that I like to do anyway. But it's not hard to blend once you've got it stuck down. If you have like I forgot my spatula and I feel real dumb, but if you get extra, you can kind of pry it off with the spatula, so not a big deal. One thing that I like to do for cuts and such, excuse me, once I've got this on the edges, you can see they look really round. I usually, again, don't know that I even brought one, but would take like tweezers, a spatula, something sharp, and kind of rough these edges up a little bit, make it look really like uneven and jagged and pointy, kind of like that. Can we see that kind of? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cuts are not even.
Yeah, that's right.
So
there's a difference between fake and making it realistic.
Exactly. And one thing that I've had to learn, and like I learned it kicking and screaming because I want everything to be perfect, is that like cuts aren't perfect. If I were to actually take a knife and cut you right now, it would not look beautiful and straight. Imperfections or like kinks and creases, that looks more realistic in my opinion.
Right. And then like what gets me is like someone just splatters blood on their face. Okay, so what caused that?
Where the
After you have an axe or something, or you
Sure.
had something with you in their costume. Okay.
Sure. Absolutely. So this is a trick that I like to do for hunts specifically, because actors are running around for 4, 5, 6 hours, sweating, drinking, doing all the thing, or drinking water. It's running everywhere, getting all the sweat everywhere. This scar wax does not like to stay on areas with a lot of motion. So like cheeks, eyebrows, things like that. One way you can get it to stick a whole lot better is going to be to cover it with latex. So that's what I'm going to do, and it does not take much whatsoever. So latex, liquid latex goes on bright white and dries clear, and that's how we know that it's dry. One thing about doing this specifically is putting latex over something does make blending your colors out a little harder. So I like to keep it pretty like tight to the edges that I need to stick. So like for this one, for instance, I'm going to put a little bit underneath the scar wax. That's going to hold it in place so it does not crack throughout the night because it does dry fairly solid. So yeah, it's bright white now, looks silly right now, but when that's clear, we'll know that it's dry.
Mm-hmm.
You want to do some burns while that's drying?
Yeah. Do you know what causes haunted attractions to shut down before they even get started? The top 3 roadblocks are lack of funding, lack of leadership, lack of resources. As a member of the Haunters Toolbox, you get instant access to the tools you need to start and grow your own haunted attraction business. To get started, become a member at haunterstoolbox.com.
Okay, so my favorite thing on the planet to do is burns. And again, I don't know where I learned this, but it's so easy. You can cover a lot of ground with this. It makes a huge mess, which I'm going to try to not do in Brian's home. But
I got a broom, it's fine.
this is something that is undoubtedly going to stay on better than most looks. So let's see.
Just pick a spot.
How's that? Does that work?
Sure.
So what we're going to do for a burn, put down a layer of latex. And what I've noticed is very important with this is the shape. If you end up with hard lines of latex, you're going to end up with hard lines of burn, which is not natural. So,
Right.
So for this, you use quite a lot of latex. So like, see how this is really pointy back here?
Mhm.
I don't want that. So I want to blend that out some and make it a little more rounded.
Okay.
If that makes any sense, I hope. This is one I've been saying less is more this whole time. Not the case with these. Lots of latex. And then immediately, before that has had any chance to dry whatsoever, these are those coffee grounds. I'm literally just going to push the coffee grounds into the latex and cover as much as I physically can of the latex. I don't want to leave any on any edges without latex on it.
Good, maybe it'll soak into my skin and wake me up.
That would be great. I wish it was that easy. But so try not to make a huge mess here.
It's fine.
And the excess just wipes away. So we've got our coffee on there. Now, immediately, without any drying, we're gonna do another layer of latex. So right on top of the coffee, more latex.
So it's good because I know sometimes you were the only artist when you
Mhm.
might have had, 50 actors to get ready.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
you were always boom, boom, boom.
Mhm.
Some people would be doing their eyes. Some people would be doing their, getting their hair all done up or whatever. And you were, so I'm sure you did this a lot where this was drying. Okay, now I got you here. And then so
Yes.
kind of like if you're the only person. Now some haunts have is where they have lines. This person just does this, and this person just does latex. This person just does.
And
So,
there are, of course, pros and cons to that. I stay busy all night, but letting somebody dry while starting somebody else. So like if you've noticed, this has turned clear almost completely while I was doing this. So now I'm going to work on this and this is going to dry at the same time. So time management
Right.
is really all it is. But one thing I do like to mention about the burns, this is bright white right now. Because of the coffee, it's going to dry to like this really gross snot color. When it's about halfway dry, that's when we want to start messing with
is that the
it.
smell you were talking about?
That's
the
the
latex?
smell.
I smell
Yeah,
it. There must be the chemical reaction between your zone.
Yes, lots of ammonia in that guy. It's
Yeah.
not fun to smell, but it does its job.
Does the job.
Absolutely. So back to this bad boy. This is all except for inside. It's almost all completely dry. Normally I would let it dry completely, but I can work around it now. With any cut, there's going to be bruising and trauma to the outside. So when I do these, it's important to me to focus on what's around it as well, so it doesn't just look like a random cut with no purpose or direction, if that makes sense. So I always pull out this bad boy next. You can probably tell I use more of these than anything else.
Yep.
This I just feel like is the most natural color. So this burgundy color, what I do is paint, not necessarily this part, you can, but I'll do that next. The inside of the cut, these little raised pieces, and like had I had my tweezers or something, that part that would be really manipulated and really like pokey, this would all be dark on the edges.
Just add a little bit of color, kind of makes it pop, right?
It does. And then I'm gonna drag the color down further, but I'm gonna use something bigger. So that's when I would use something like one of these to blend with, because I have more areas to cover and more blending to do. Brushes obviously don't blend these things as well as your hands or a sponge. There are some things that I will die on the hill that your fingers can blend more than anything else, but in this case, so going around the edges, and this is something that doesn't have to be real neat necessarily, because we're gonna blend it.
Is that the same color?
Same color.
Okay.
Same color for now, but it's going to kind of imitate swelling and irritation. One thing about using like these 3-dimensional products like the Scar Wax. It looks three-dimensional if you're up close, but if you're not, once it's on, you really can't tell and you work really hard on it. So the paint helps give it dimension.
So how would I go about taking this off later?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So Scar Wax, which I can show at the end, it's
Okay.
gonna peel off pretty much in one piece.
Yeah.
The everything else that's blended into the skin is gonna come off with regular makeup remover, coconut oil, olive oil, those kinds of things. Spirit gum, there is an actual remover for, it's like a clear solution. When you're not using very much spirit gum, it's not necessarily required, but it usually comes with your spirit gum when you buy it. So
All right.
just the little bit that I use is not going to leave a residue. I did a cut all the way down my face last night, peeled it right off, used a makeup wipe, and I was ready to roll. So, okay. So all intents and purposes, the red is done. It looks nice and gross. One thing that I like to do is make things look infected. The grosser, the better.
Of course.
So I like the yellow. One thing with the yellow in these is it goes a really long way. A little bit goes such a long way. So I'm just barely going to take any, just barely, and go around kind of the outside edges. Because one thing with things like bruises, of course, when you see somebody with a bruise or a black eye, the deepest points of that injury that they got are going to be the darkest color. Everybody has seen a bruise heal. The outside is going to turn yellow first, and then it's going to work its way in. So I just, if I can keep it as real as possible, that's my goal.
Yes. And I know when you're working at the Dead Factory, when you do
Mhm.
work at the Dead Factory,
Mhm.
the people that are up close, queue line actors and
Yes.
stuff, but we had a tendency to just do everybody because everybody wanted a realistic cut, right?
Right, because it's super
Then
cool.
then you have to pick and choose what exactly your actors are going to be. You really
Yes.
need a plan first
Yes.
to make sure everybody's kind of on the same boat of what they're going to get.
So what we do, or what I've requested we do is like on like orientation night or like our meeting night, we will make a list of, we'll go through the haunt as a team, place everybody, your name goes on a list with your room. I at this haunt have been there for so long, I know, you know, like what rooms require what essentially. So low lighting, I'm going to spend like 60 seconds or less on your makeup if you're in a pitch black room with one red light. Things like that. I don't ever waste resources of, you know, any of this or time doing something like this that takes, you know, 15 minutes. It's not long, but when you only have a couple hours to get ready.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do this on somebody that you're really not even going to see.
We'll do some quick stuff later.
Yes.
Just some
Absolutely.
splotches.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So sorry, I'm losing things. Don't mind me.
Nah.
As far as, so the inside of this hole, somebody asked me last year at the haunted house, why do you put black in it? Wounds aren't black, and I know that, but it adds dimension. So this is just water on a brush in my paint. The less water you add, the darker your paint. So I didn't add very much water. If I'd added more water, this would be like clear. It would be very translucent. I'm gonna stay really close to the edges here and just fill it in on the bottom.
That's what I always do too. I always use black.
Yes, and you can use like a dark red or like a purple. In all actuality, it's not going to make a massive difference, but it makes it nice and dark. That's how I like them.
It's a good base to put everything else against too.
Absolutely. So that's going to dry. Like you said, there are things like I'm going to be letting this dry while I'm giving somebody else two black eyes, and then I'm going to come back.
Right.
Because there's one of me. And at our haunt, I'm the only one that does this type of thing typically. Our other makeup artist, she's really good at her airbrush. I am not. So this is stuff, once you get the feel for it, know what to do in what order, something like this would take me like less than 5 minutes as a whole total. So
right, without teaching it,
exactly,
talking through it.
exactly. And if I didn't have to stand here and let it dry and I wasn't doing other things, so on and so forth. There's no method to making this dry faster with the exception of a hair dryer, which does work, but when you have so many other things to do, it's just not necessary for me.
Right.
That water-based paint dries really fast. It's not shiny anymore, which is how I know it's pretty much dry. Next thing we're going to use is my favorite thing of all, which is the scab lid.
Yeah.
I'm going to use the back of a paintbrush because that is what I realistically use 90% of the time. Spatulas help you get more precision, but I'm cheap. Like
it was available. It's like,
it's available and it works. So this is one of those things where less is more. So this is gonna be really, really, really stringy. Can we see how stringy it is? I can't find my hand.
Yeah.
One thing, if you put it on as a string, it's staying as a string. So just word to the wise. What I do for things like this is I'm only gonna physically put the scab blood inside the cut. I'm not going to put it all around, and I'll explain why but this is nice and chunky, and again, it's 3-dimensional, which is what I think looks the best for something when we've already made it 3-dimensional everywhere else, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I ran upstairs right now. I think he'd be freaking out.
Yeah.
But she knows what I'm doing. So
Sometimes I will take like a string and just kind of like place it, and boom, it's gonna stay like that forever because that's what it's meant to do.
so it stays this consistency in the air too.
So it's gonna coagulate some, it's gonna harden up a little bit. If I touched it right now, it'd be on my finger, but after
Right.
probably 30 minutes, it will harden to an extent. It's gonna stay through sweat, so on and so forth. But it's not gonna be like rock solid like everything else to an extent will be. So this is where I use my stipple sponge because I couldn't do it without it. I don't typically have to go in and pick up more product for this. I mean it, this stuff lasts forever. I will dip this in what I've already done, and it serves two purposes. So one, it gets what I need on the brush, and two, it makes this really cool like jelly texture in there already. Then I will just take it and make my splatters here. Can't talk and think at the same time. But
Yeah, just kind of, it's like a painter's favorite tool. Because realistically, if someone's going to hit you in the skull with an axe, there's going to be some splatter, right?
exactly. And like one of our actors, I do like a giant head wound on my dad, actually.
Yeah.
And what I'll do for that one is I'll take scab blood and kind of build it up on the edges because there's always going to be more on the edges, and then fade the splatter down because that's what would happen if we were to whack somebody with an axe.
Mm-hmm.
So I keep it thicker on the edges and looser on the far part. Ta-da!
Brings it in.
Oh, and there's your cut, except where I messed it up. Hold on. Sorry, that was my fault.
See the chunk, see my brain?
Perfect. Wonderful.
Looks good.
Good deal.
So if someone wanted to add like staples and string
Yes.
or stuff like that, I know staples are kind of a, some people saying, well, you can get hurt with those.
Mhm.
Granted, if someone's not knowing how to handle
Yep.
their own, because you could bump your head and hurt and push a staple
And actually
into
staple your head.
Right.
Yeah.
You can use fake
Absolutely.
staples. I've seen people just cut the tips off the staples off so it's not as pointy.
It's flat. Yep.
Flatter. You
Okay.
can put staples in there, string.
So I've seen a lot of people use string, small pieces of cardboard, literally anything you have laying around that you can make that small rectangle shape.
Yep.
Paint it silver. Any like decent sized palette will have a silver paint in it. Even painting it white in a low light situation, you're gonna get the gist.
Right.
It's gonna look like a staple. So that's definitely the safest way to go about it. But I like the real thing personally. But
Yeah. Too.
but you just gotta know the risk.
You want to do something else over here? Or
Absolutely. This is actually drying. I need to finish it.
okay.
So usually we would use for like a smaller section of this, I would use like a pair of regular tweezers. But this, now that it's dry, this is still drying. This is mostly dry. It is super, super durable. So it's so small, so it's ripping up. But if we take, I gotta be really aggressive, my fingers and rip a hole in it.
Mm-hmm.
I like to do that. I have to get all up in your business to do it.
That's fine.
Peel some more
I
pieces.
volunteered myself.
You did. You did. You've seen me do it. You know what's coming.
Yep.
And then let's see, I'll do another one over here. I hope it's visible on camera. It will be once I paint it, but
Yeah.
there's like a hole right here, for instance, where you can see just his plain skin through, and there's a reason for that. Another one. This, when you do it on a big enough area of someone's skin, so like one of the girls at our haunt, her entire face on one side is burned. There's no skin showing through around her eyes. I just do paint and blood up close, like tight lined, because obviously latex does not go near eyes typically. But we rip a whole bunch of holes in this because if you've seen a burn, what do burns do? They blister.
Yeah.
Right. That's the
like-
word.
Yep.
I really couldn't think of it.
Blister and fester and
Yep.
boils and
So those burns blister, and then the blisters pop and they leave these big old holes. So I do like all different sizes. This is another one where like imperfection is perfect because nobody's burns have perfect holes in them.
right.
What I do at this point, this is in the way.
So
I'm
if you had
sorry.
tweezers would like
So much
you
easier.
just tweeze it out.
But I started doing it with my fingers. That's how I started
Right.
doing it. So and it really helps you kind of get a feel.
You always have your fingers.
Absolutely. Once this has our holes in it, I'm going to come back to the whole part, but I'm going to start with my bruise wheel again and take that same color that I can't get enough of and paint everything. It dries this nasty green color anyway because it's full of coffee.
Right.
I'm this part that I ripped up on accident, I'm going to glue down because it's driving me nuts. But the green color alone is nasty, but I like to kind of set it with the red because it looks more.
You're going back with some spirit gum.
I am.
and then
I'm
just
trying
kinda
to tap
tapping
it
down.
best I can.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm sure it'll happen.
It
to other
will.
People, so.
it will. And if I were doing like the whole top of your head right now, that would not happen.
Right.
It's because I have such a small space that I did. I probably should have just given myself more room, but you get the gist.
Okay.
So dark red, I like to go all over the green parts. If it shows through, that's fine. It looks nice and nasty, and nastier is better. And like I said, I usually do this on like a really large scale, like somebody's entire side of their head. So at the edges, we end up blending this color around because again, there's going to be blood on it.
Yeah, because it's more realistic to see more of a burn.
Yes.
Like, unless it was like individually,
exactly.
like a tool across your face, or
Mhm.
being in a fire.
Right. If somebody came out of like Freddy Krueger, they're not just gonna have
Right.
like a $50
Yeah,
side
right.
burn.
Look at Freddy's face. I mean, there's all kinds of pocks and
Yes.
dips and divots and
Maybe I'll have to do like a time lapse at some point of doing this on a large scale.
right.
Because it looks pretty neat. More the merrier where that's concerned.
I think Scarlet badges are one of the smartest things I've seen in the industry in a really long time. Scarlet badges are basically either pins or embroidered patches, kind of like merit badges, as they are, somewhat named after, from Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and Brownies, and where after you've accomplished something, you can wear the brag tag of the embroidered patch. Some haunts put them on jackets, some put them on t-shirts, some put them on, with the pins, I've seen them put them on lanyards. But the neat thing about them is they are very specific in what they are rewarding. And they're haunt-based images that reflect what's being rewarded. It's retention, it is bringing people back, and it's actually giving your haunters, your haunt performers, the ability to share that they are haunt performers. And, oh really, you're a scare actor. Where do you do that? And then they will insert the name of your haunt right there. So it's also marketing. I've always been a big fan of Scarlet badges. I think they're great. So check them out, scarletbadges.com. No, that is not a paid advertisement. That is just my recommendation. I think it's really cool.
ScottSwinson.com.
So I've got my red on here, and what I do now, just like I put in the center of this one with the black paint, I'm going to do that again. So thick black paint right in the holes there, and it's literally just for dimension because we're going to put the nasty stuff on top of it in these holes.
So the coffee grounds gives it like a texture, like
It's all texture, yes.
almost like a road rash.
Exactly. Yep, it's like a gross thick scab. You can pretty well see in there. You can put it, yeah, it's very gross, very rigid. So that's not very much paint at all. It'll take like a second to dry. Then back in with my favorite thing. We're noticing a theme, probably.
Fresh scab.
On everything. I take the scab blood and put it right in the holes, just like a dollop. I like to keep it in the holes for the most part because otherwise the holes get overtaken. Doesn't look as real to me. Another thing that I really like doing sometimes is either in combination with the scab blood or instead of the scab blood, mash up a banana.
Yeah.
And stick the banana in the holes. It looks like pus. It's super gross.
Then if I get hungry later, I can just eat
You
my
can just eat
brains,
it,
right?
and everything's
It's like,
fine. And everything's fine. So there we have it. Usually I'll also, just kind of depends on how I'm feeling that day, but I'll take the stipple sponge and kind of add some blood around the top, just sporadically. Another thing that works really well for burns, once you've got them colored how you want and like fully done, if you take some,
get a better angle at it there. It's like it's a face.
it does. I didn't mean to do that.
It's a little
He's
brute.
yelling. If we take Vaseline and just like rub it all over, it looks glossy.
Okay.
I don't know if the camera really picks it up that well, but in person it does.
Right.
That's
Try to shine it.
I like the realism of that because burns produce plasma, the blisters burst, and everything is wet. So
you ever add any yellow to it or pus or like?
I do.
Like-
Sometimes going over everything, I'll just kind of make a menagerie of colors. That bruise wheel, honestly, I could just rub every color together and stick it on there and it would look great. I love this because it is so easy. You can't mess it up.
Right.
Any color you put on it is gonna look gross. It looks gross with no color on it. When I started doing this, I didn't rip the holes in it, but I learned that when I did it on like a giant scale, the holes looked really, really gross, especially when I could do big ones, fill them with blood and just let it drain.
And what was so that was just latex, coffee grounds, and then latex on top of that, right?
Yep.
That was it.
That's it.
Okay.
Latex, coffee grounds, latex in one go. Don't let the latex dry until you've done all those 3 steps. And then it's going to dry from white to that gross, yucky color, that green color. That's when you know you're ready to start pulling at it and making holes. And you don't even have to, it looks nasty on its own.
Right.
So that's just a personal preference that I like to do. I can't unsee the face now.
That's
but yeah, that's a really, really stinking easy way to make a really cool special effect. The more ground you cover, the crazier it looks, and
Right.
it's so easy.
starts smelling coffee again, or
It
maybe
does.
that's something.
I'll take it. I'll take it. Yeah.
All right, so if you guys, I know there's Riker left in there, but if you guys have any questions or any comments, or you want us to see us do anything, let us know. What do you want to do? You want to do something? Give me a bruise, maybe?
Absolutely.
Just like basic bruise.
Absolutely. Bruises are super easy and super subject to personal preference, really.
Hey, Riker.
If you Google a picture of a bruise, you get 10 different looking bruises, right? Because there's all different stages of healing, so you really can't mess it up. I'm gonna come behind you if that's okay.
Yeah,
so I
do
can
I need
see
to move?
better. No, you're okay.
Okay.
You're good. What I like to do is start. Oh, I'm so sorry.
You're fine.
Start with the darkest parts and blend out. So, like, for instance, like a black eye. You want me to give you a black eye, or would you rather do me a bruise up here?
Just
Oh, you
kind of
can't
bruise
really
up.
see, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
So for instance, I like this dark color for actual bruises because it does look more purple. You'll notice if you put it on with a brush, it blends really easily. I like to use my fingers for this or a sponge, but it blends straight in.
Yeah.
I'm pushing hard, sorry.
Oh, you're fine. So it looks black, but it's not black.
Exactly. It comes out like a purplish color.
Okay.
And then for the different depths of a bruise, you can take that same color in a spot and blend it less, leave it more opaque. Sorry, I'm looking in the camera while I'm doing this.
Yeah.
So
Well,
see,
that looks like a bruise right there.
yep. So
it's like variations of
exactly. That's all the same color that you're looking at. Every piece of that is the
Just-
exact same color, just blended heavily.
one's
more
darker than
heavily.
the other.
Exactly. The yellow is wonderful for this. I like to take just a little bit on my fingers. And of course, like I said earlier, bruises are going to become yellow on the lightest parts of the bruise first. So I like to go just around the edges, look super dark, and then we blend.
That just makes it pop out even more.
Exactly. I see the yellow in there.
Yeah.
But it's all subject to your preference. I'm noticing now that this part is like not very blended, but you get the gist, right?
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
And then the sponges are going to do the same thing, obviously.
So if you're doing around the eye, you would do the same thing. Just
Mhm.
be aware of the eye.
Exactly. So I messed it up, but
I mean,
oh, you're okay. We got the gist of it. Some red in there. Like it really is just kind of blend. If you want to blend more, keep blending and then add spots of less blended.
right.
How many times can I say the word blend? But that's really all it is. Like that's all it is. It's just blending. So, black eyes, I like to do like you start you're gonna start like I won't actually do it, but like you start in the inner corner, work your way kind of down. High and tight with the dark and the inner corner. Typically with black eyes, I feel like you see more in the inner corner, a lot of darkness in the inner corner, and then on the lower part of the top lid, and then blend up and down. So dark in the center, light all the way down and all the way up. But
Or if you're doing it or your makeup artist is doing it, pull some pictures off of Google, like
yes,
black eye,
cannot stress that enough.
and just kind of go off of that.
I almost always have a picture sitting next to me, especially for black eyes. For some reason, like it just helps me to stare at them.
How many times did I save a picture and say, Tess, I need you to do this tonight?
Perfect.
Okay,
Yeah.
Send me the photo.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with having reference photos everywhere. In fact, before we did this, I was Googling pictures of black eyes. So
anything like blood splatters or just like stuff quick, like you would give,
absolutely.
I know that doesn't take very long.
Absolutely. One thing, like these stipple sponges, like I cannot sing their praises enough. For blood splatter, it never fails. An actor will come up to me at like, we open at 7, it's 7:02, and they're like, I don't have any blood on me. Dipping this in, see, I got quite a bit. Let me see. I got quite a bit on there.
Yeah.
Keeping it. Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize you
Well,
were
I can turn a little bit.
Where you got a better spot?
So you can go by the
Yeah,
berries,
better
maybe.
spot. Yeah, sorry. I'm looking in front of me, not in the.
Right. Yeah.
But if we, kind of pile it in and spread it out, just like I would on any other wound, turn the sponge around so you don't get any harsh edges. Fold it up. There's nothing that can do blood splatter quicker than a stipple sponge, in my opinion.
Right.
And
And
sometimes
keeping it clean too, because you're not
flinging
splattering,
it.
flinging
It's not in a
stuff.
spray bottle. You're
Mhm.
not getting it on the other
Getting in
artists
people's
and actors
eyes.
around you. Yeah. So like it is so simple. That's it. And another thing, if somebody doesn't have stipple sponges, if you don't want to buy stipple sponges, something that I used to do, take like a regular makeup wedge. It's like obviously it's got these harsh lines that we do not want because it would look like a square. Well, it would look like a square. If you take just your fingers and pull all the sharp edges off. It's kind of a makeshift stipple sponge.
It's almost like the they sell the sponge kits for doing your house paint and your walls. They have different textures for the sponges.
Yeah. So in a pinch, let's see where we at. Sorry, in a pinch, that'll do it too.
Yeah, it's close.
So just for like the world's fastest blood.
Right.
In a hurry. I can do this while I'm walking. And it still looks decent. It doesn't look like I just took a sponge and smeared it on.
Now, do you ever use just standard fake blood?
Absolutely.
Like
typically, so for instance, I cannot believe I didn't bring fake blood. The one thing. But for something like this, I would maybe drip a little bit from it.
Right.
Runny.
More runny.
Yes, runny fake blood, like the kind you buy in a bottle.
Walmart brand, or I try to stay away from Walmart brand because I don't know the toxics. I'd rather buy something that's safe, and I don't know. They say it's non-toxic.
Right.
It
is. I've used the Walmart brand. It works fine for me, but the logistics, it is smarter to invest in a better one, I'm sure.
And some are thicker than others.
Some are thicker than others. Even with the cheaper brands, which is pretty much all I buy. If it's safe and it's cheap, we're good.
Right.
They might vary in consistency bottle to bottle, like even the same brand.
Right.
So I tend to lean towards the thicker ones because the runny ones do tend to be like clearer, more translucent. They don't look quite as real to me. I use runny fake blood so little that I forgot to bring it. So
and some blood will stain your skin
and clothes.
So you got to be careful with what you get.
None of what I've used aside from liquid latex today is going to stain and ruin anything. I've gotten this stuff all over all kinds of things and never had an issue. So and it wipes right off your skin as well. Runny fake blood, it has its place in my opinion, but like maybe a drip here and there, because I like to stick with more realistic. Realistically it's not going to run so
right
when it's that deep. So that's totally a matter of personal preference though.
That's because I know we've been through several different brands, and in a pinch you're like, just grab some from Walmart.
You're right, grab some on your way.
We're out, just try it.
Anybody going to Spirit today?
So it's like, okay, we'll use it, but I know you can buy gallons of it.
You can.
I know some actors like to cover themselves.
Carry style. Absolutely. Which that's, in my opinion, that's where it has its place. Is in things like that. When I try to do the more realistic things, whether it takes me 3 minutes or 30 minutes, I typically don't grab for the liquid blood.
How about like a quick scratch or a quick stitch or something?
Sure, absolutely. One thing that I like about, let me get my Vaseline, about the Scar Wax is it is so versatile. Another way that a lot of people like to do cuts, like I did the two, I call them snakes. Right. I did the two snakes and blended them in separately so that it was nice and like gaping. Mm-hmm. But another way people like to do it, excuse me while I make my snake.
It almost rolls like Play-Doh.
It does roll like sticky Play-Doh. Okay. Let me put some spirit gum down. Where do you want to go?
Go back there behind the.
Right here? Yeah, perfect. And you can see how little of this I'm using, like next to none. It's gonna cover that. Just a light. Yeah. And then maker.
Yeah, that one I can't stop seeing the face either.
I know, I hate it. It's cute, but I didn't mean to do it.
It's like a baby Groot.
Mm-hmm.
Bloody Groot.
So like on this one, for instance, I'm going to try to do this in real time, but while I'm talking, I'm slow. I only pushed down, like blended down one edge. On this one, I'm going to blend down both.
Okay.
So I'm only blending the edges. I'm not pushing the whole center into your skin.
Right. So it's still got some.
Still raised.
Right.
And then we've got this nice little ridge. What I would do at this point, which I don't know that I even have anything to do it with, something sharp and small.
Like a pencil?
Yep. Would that work? You okay with that?
You can Find one that
Shopping.
doesn't matter which one you get.
Use a pen.
Yeah.
Okay with that. So we're using a pen today.
Fly
Yeah,
guy.
it does not matter. I'm gonna take it down the center of that. Try to keep my hands out of the way. Down the center and just pull it out.
Okay.
See?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Right.
So now there's a hole in the middle of it. And if you want, like on camera, it looks really, really raised. So I would maybe blend, when I say blend, I don't mean sit here for 10 minutes. I mean, literally do that. Took me 4 seconds.
Smooth it out a little bit.
Exactly. Just smooth it. And then repeat the process. So
Okay.
you cover with latex if you want it to last all night. I find it easier to paint over with latex on it as well, to blend paint in. Let it dry for a minute or so, paint it, and you're done. But you can see there's like a valley in there now.
Right.
So that's where I would put my dark color and my fake blood.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
it does.
Okay. And I think your pen is salvaged. So
All
we're good
right.
there.
Is there anything else you want to try?
I don't know what it would be, but I'm open to suggestions.
Okay.
I will do whatever.
Riker, is anything that you want to see done? I know Q-line actors get more detail.
Yes.
So like the people to the house, we've made the mistake of like doing complete blood work, makeup on somebody and putting them in a red room,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Which kind of just like drowns out all the work that you did.
100%. You can't see any of
Can't
it.
see anything.
Might as well have done nothing.
Yeah. So we like to use a lot of natural light in
Mhm.
those rooms
Mhm.
because then, whether it's a dim light or a flickering low light or something that can be seen.
Yes.
So people that are trying to figure out what they want to do with their actors, I know a lot of actors don't like wear masks,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
What do you do a lot? Like like for the Dead Factory, is it dark eyes and blood splatter?
Pretty
Or,
much,
Like, is it like, stuff like that?
pretty
It's
much.
like, well, we don't know what to do with you because we have, no matter what you do, you schedule all your actors, you have somebody brings a friend in,
Yeah.
or
So you throw 'em in a
or a
corner
mom
somewhere.
needs to bring her daughter with her that night.
Yeah.
So you're trying to think, well, where can we do with her? What can we put her?
I like my go-to, which they love this. They're expecting something really fancy, but we got to do something on the fly.
Yeah.
Darker on the eyes. I use my water-based Mayron. It's called Paradise Paint by Mayron. Any water-based paint will work, but theirs is by far my favorite. Darker on the eyes. I blend it on the edges so it doesn't look like I took a stamp and put it on their eyes.
Right.
I like to drain it down some, so like I'll darken their eyes and then kind of drag it down nice and creepy. And then I like the blood around the mouth. I think it looks feral. I think it looks neat.
Right.
But putting some dark around somebody's eyes, kind of using my brush to drag down and kind of elongate their eyes and putting some blood around their mouth. All of that combined takes me way less than a minute.
Right.
It's so
You
quick.
just use your
so
sponge with that. Just
Yep, sponge, brush. I mean, you can use sponge or brush around the eyes. I like to use my brush to kind of like drag down from the eye with some creepy little lines. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then take my stipple sponge and go to town around their mouth with some mouth safe blood,
right.
and we're good to go. Oh, darkness around their mouth as well. If you want to put like some black lipstick or black paint.
Right.
Mayron Paradise paint is non-toxic. I have gotten it in my mouth on more occasions than I can count. It's so simple to just throw some around.
I know some people use like wrinkles. So like you're trying to make somebody old, right?
Yes.
You go through and maybe darken up the wrinkles a lot.
Yep. Paint works for that. I'd rather use a bruise wheel. To be honest with you, that's not my strongest suit.
Yeah.
Just to be honest.
Right.
One thing that is so incredibly fast and arguably the most realistic product to use for wrinkles is called rigid collodion. Rigid collodion is something you should absolutely test.
Is it wrinkles up the skin?
Yes, it tightens it up. It looks like a scar when it's dry. So I don't have it, or I'd show.
Right.
It is something you should absolutely test, like on your wrist, and let it dry and see how your skin reacts to it. First, it's very strong. But basically what you do is follow the natural lines of wrinkles or a scar. If you want some, like I could draw a scar in the shape of a heart if I wanted to. It sets and tightens up the skin, makes it nice and shiny like a scar, and tightens it up. It works exactly the same for wrinkles. Let it dry between layers, and that is it. You do not have to paint it. You don't have to do anything.
They use that in Hollywood stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's not expensive and it's easily accessible too.
Right.
So I mean, I can buy it online. Anybody can buy it, but that is by far my favorite. Of course, you can paint it if you would like to go the extra mile, but you do not need to. And very easily make somebody look very old and wrinkly very quickly.
Right.
So that's kind of, I feel like maybe a more advanced product, but a very, very easy advanced product.
Right. Well, that's good. I mean, you don't need people starting out. You don't need a whole lot.
No.
No. You don't need, even if you wanted to start off in smaller bottles because you didn't have the funds but like Tessa said, you could buy everything for like what,
It was
170?
170 when I added it all together.
That's all the big bottle stuff.
Yep. So that's all my brushes, all my sponges, stipple sponges included, liquid latex, scab blood, a large tub of scab blood that's gonna last me all season, if not more. Same with the scar wax.
That's 2 several actors.
Oh, many. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. Many, many, many faces you can get through. Because less is more.
Right.
A large tub of scar wax, which again is going to last arguably even longer than the scab blood. My bruise wheel, my Vaseline, everything.
And coffee grounds, you got those.
Yeah, you got those. Same,
You drink
like,
coffee, but
things like a banana, things like tweezers, your tools, your everyday tools are things you probably already have.
right. Deb, so you popped in. If you have any questions, I don't know if you saw the rest of it on Facebook. Tessa doing some makeup, it's just latex. And where's your blood stuff? You can go back and watch the video. She shows you how to do it. It's the fresh scab.
Most superior blood, in my opinion.
Yeah, I've been using Ben Nye since I first started.
Me too.
Just dabbling.
Me too. I started even practicing this like I push in 13 or 14 years ago. The person that I saw doing it was using Ben Nye then. I ordered it and I've never
gone back.
it.
Yeah.
No, I've had others, at the haunt or otherwise that I've messed around with, and sure it worked. But this by far, in my opinion, has been the easiest to use as far as actually working with. It's not going to run. It's not going to coagulate prematurely. And I just think it looks real. So
And you can do so much with it.
yes.
So like your dad,
Mm-hmm.
he has the big cut across his forehead a lot. Then
Mhm.
he's got the staples all the way across because
Mhm.
his brain's been operated on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
If you want.
another photo, I don't have it, but
That's okay. I have a good one. What this past season I started.
was that he was on the marketing that I did for this class.
So
So he's the guy on there.
So for instance, can we see that? Is that gonna come through?
I'm gonna try to get it to work.
So there's his lack of brain.
There it is.
Oh, that's okay. It looks like a lot of scab blood. Really, it's just a lot of paint under the scab blood to make it nice and dark, and then a layer of scab blood that I then took my stipple sponge and pulled up at. Push down, pull up, push down, pull up, push down, pull up. This is where I did use runny blood, as you can see. I put more on this than I would have liked to because he demands it. But it does look good.
Mark's, he's like, oh, give me some more blood.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
But that's one of my favorite looks I've ever done, and I like to do it every single night, so I don't ever get tired of that one. That is everything in that is everything I did this with. So
How long does that take you to do?
His takes me in total, not counting dry time for his latex. That's about 5 to 10 minutes alone. His whole look probably 20 minutes.
Okay.
Nothing too crazy.
Right.
Between maybe 15 and 25 minutes altogether.
So make sure your actors are there early if they need
Yes.
complex work done.
He beats me there every night.
Yeah.
He's ready to roll. He's incredibly dedicated to his craft. So
Yeah. He'd sleep there if you let him.
oh, he would.
Yeah.
He probably has. but yeah, I love the big projects like that. But like we were talking about, it's not for every actor in the haunt. It's going to cost a lot of time and money, to be honest, to
Right.
put all these products on all these people who aren't even in a well-lit room. So
Yeah. Yeah, we always mix between masks or hoods or where you can't even see their face. And
airbrush is a good thing for that. I'm not good at airbrush. Jasmine at our haunt is good at airbrush, and it's a very quick solution. It's an investment for sure. And it's a process to learn like anything else.
If you want to sit back, I don't know if are you done up
sure.
here?
If you want me to be.
Yeah, we'll just take
Absolutely.
questions.
Sure.
But yeah, that's I've seen in a pinch just taking black paint and just
Yep.
throwing it on your hands and you're and just breaking up your silhouette.
Mm-hmm.
Just break
Absolutely.
stuff up.
Absolutely. Darkening your features. Like, I don't have it with me because to be honest, I don't use it very much, but like a black face powder, like regular, like black eyeshadow,
Right.
$2 black eyeshadow from Walgreens to darken up, like your cheekbones, make you look nice and hollow.
Just throw some in the little
Down your neck. Yeah. I mean,
there, just kind of raise your cheekbones up.
in the light, does it look beautiful and like well crafted? No. But in the dark, does it do the job? Yeah.
Right.
I've gone through our haunt and many others with so many different groups and people, whether they're friends or family or just customers that I don't know and I've followed behind for whatever reason. And those actors still get really good scares. I mean, it doesn't matter what you look like if you're doing your job in a not well lit room.
Well, I've been just in my hoodie before. Customers,
Yeah.
You throw your hood up and you take your flashlight or throw it in their face, and
Mhm.
they're like,
I focus all of my attention on the actors that are either very in your face and you can actually see them in a room that has light, or the queue line, ones that somebody's going to actually stand there and have a conversation with,
right.
where you can see every detail.
And we ended up buying just black makeup for everybody because a lot of them
Yeah.
get masks. Just do your own black. Here's
Mhm.
black. Get your black ready so you have plenty of mirrors up so
Mhm.
they can just do their own eyes.
Anything you can see through the mask.
Yeah.
Just black tube cream paint.
That's a pet peeve for me. When I see a good mask,
Mm-hmm.
I say, I can see your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
No, you got to blend it in.
Like, I can see your eyeliner.
Yeah, I can see you got to black that in,
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
having even have your actors wear gloves, or just do something with their hands just to dirty them up.
Yes.
Or
Sorry.
get rid of the Nike tennis shoes
Mhm.
and throw on some black or some work boots or some black shoes.
Yes, that's another thing I have a lot at the last minute is people run up like, my hands are too clean. My hands are too clean. So I'll take like a big brush like this and just dip it. Can you see that? Dip it in some water, dip it in some dark paint, just whoop all over their hands. Takes, I'm not exaggerating, 10 seconds. And it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
When the haunt's live.
I'm all about detail too. So it's
Absolutely.
like they're coming up to me. I'm like, do I look okay? I'm like, your hands.
Right. Your hands and your
Put some
Nike.
gloves on.
Yeah.
So, well, if you guys don't have any more questions, if you missed this, Deb or anybody else watching, go back to the very beginning and see how we did the latex and blood. Not a lot of materials. Easy effect. You can carry this through whatever you do: cuts, bruises, wounds. You can do punctures. I know Tessa has some pictures of with a pencil, stuck. So when you do stuff like that, is that just like more the wax?
A lot of scar wax.
Scar wax, and just stick it in place.
A lot of scar wax. Another thing that a lot of people, which I probably should have mentioned this earlier, a lot of people like to learn without scar wax, and it's not a lot of people's first step. It was mine, and I do think it looks more real. But you can also use toilet paper towels. You can drench it in latex and make my little snakes I was talking about. You can do the exact same thing.
YouTube videos on doing that.
Yep.
I think I might even used that before at one time.
Like at any given point, you will see us with like a roll of paper towels rolled into strips that I can just dip in latex, throw on, bunch up, and let it dry. I like the scar wax a lot better because you can like you saw me like push it into his skin. It looks very naturally raised instead of just flat, and then there's paper towels.
Right.
But that's what it's made for. So that's the point. But if I'm convinced if you can learn with paper towels and toilet paper, you can do anything, because I struggle with that more than I do scar wax, to be honest.
It takes a lot. You have to get it on right.
It does. And many times I have tried a look on a haunt night, got it halfway put on and hated it and taken it off and started over with something different. Which if you're good at that, applaud you, because I'm not. But it is a way to learn how the latex works, how it dries, how you relate it. So
I also in a pinch I've just taken latex and put it on my face and then just picked at the latex and then put holes in it and then went through with the black and dot the black and then put the scab stuff on it, which I mean, for what you're doing, and if you're not like Sarah up front, it's fine. I mean, you kind of look fine, all right. And it's like, oh, that was pretty cool. And it just took me 5 minutes to do that.
Exactly. And this special effects, especially like when I was first starting out, it is 100% trial and error.
Yeah.
Like you'll try something and be like, wow, I hate the way that looks.
Right.
Never do it again.
Yeah.
Like it just, and that's me with toilet paper.
Yeah.
I hate it. So,
Don't-
like, I
Well,
can't.
when you found scar wax, I mean, it's like
I think I started backwards is my
Yeah,
problem.
yeah.
For sure. But if there's even things that other people, like, the order I do things in might not work. So I just try to do it in the way that things can dry appropriately. I can blend things on top of other things. The main reason that I do it in the order I do it in is so that I can blend colors on top of other materials. So,
right.
but it's a personal preference.
Well, I think when you're doing a haunt, you're crunched for time, you're crunched for money. You might only have one makeup artist, and I know not everybody's into the blood and gore. We'll go into more classes eventually, but starting off, blood and gore is kind of easy and fast.
Yep.
That's why a lot of people do it
Mhm.
because it's you make it look good, you make it look easy. Now, some people are that maybe not have the natural talents to, but just keep, like you said, keep practicing, experimenting. Grab your mom, your dad, do it on your arm.
Yep.
So
I learned on myself. I learned doing it on myself. I didn't have anybody model for me. Actually, like, until I met you.
Yeah.
I
It's like,
started
ooh, I
doing
like
for the
this.
haunt.
That's it.
Yeah.
You want to come
And,
work
like,
at the Death Factory?
I was so proud of when I first started out. Looking back, I realized how far I've come with literally no different materials, just more practice.
Right.
I'm using the same materials today that I started with over a decade ago, and the difference in my work then and my work now is incredibly dramatic. It's so
You
different.
learn how to layer.
And it's exactly, it's just practice.
Bringing
Like,
yeah.
that's all. So, not
Well-
that I'm a professional by any means, but I've definitely come a long way.
Well, you do a better job than I do. So, yeah. Well, thank you guys for attending.
Thank you.
If you have any questions, Tessa will be tagged in this post. She is in our Haunt Master group, so I'm sure she'll be able to answer your questions over on Facebook.
Absolutely. If anybody wants any links to anything, I can provide as well.
And if you are a Haunt Master member, you will be getting this video in an email within a few days, so you can go back and watch it over again. And then you can show your scare actors how to do it and have them watch it. All right, well, we're signing off for the evening. Thanks, Riker. Deb,
Thank you.
have a good evening.
This podcast episode sponsored by Scarlet Badges. Get your Scare Badges at scarebadges.com. Also sponsored by Hunter's Toolbox. Take your haunt to the next level at HauntersToolbox.com. Thank you for listening to Haunt Topic Radio. Please leave a comment wherever you found this podcast. Each comment you leave will help spread the word to other haunters around the world. See you next time.